Hi there guys, hope you're having fun today. We're going to go ahead and take a look at a program that shows us how to invoke methods to accomplish a certain task. In this case, we're going to ask a user to input a number, and we're going to decide whether that number is a palindrome or not. A palindrome is a number or name or anything that is read the same in reverse as it is forward. So let's go ahead and dive in, and you can see I have both methods are already stated that we're going to use. Have this one right here, the reverse, and then we have is a palindrome right here. On these, you can see that I have an int in front of this one, and that means we're going to be returning an int number. You can see my parentheses here. I have that blank right now. We're going to fill that in a little bit later, but that is what we're going to be passing that method. So whether we will be passing an int, a boolean, or anything like that. And on this one we have boolean, which is true, false, and that's what we're going to be returning. So let's go ahead and dive in and see what we need. First thing we need to think of is what variables are we going to need. Well, first off, if we're asking the user to input something, we're going to need something to store that in. So we're going to be asking them to input an int, so go ahead and do int number. Close that off. And also, when we're looking at a palindrome, we need to know what the reverse of that number is. So we're going to do int reverse. Let's do reverse in, so there's no confusion between the variable and the method itself. Technically, you can use the same name, but I wouldn't get in that practice. You might start messing things up, or it might get a little confusing. I'm also going to do one other thing, and this we'll see come into play a little bit later, but I'm going to define two strings to tell us whether it is a palindrome or whether it is not a palindrome. So let's go ahead and do string A equals there we go, that's that one. Helps if I can spell it today. Let's go ahead and do our second one. And this will be to tell us that it's not a palindrome. There we go. Alright, now that we have that, we also need to define our scanner. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. Alright, now that we have that, those are our variables and what we're going to use. Now we need to go ahead and prompt our user to enter something. So let's go ahead and do a system out. Let's just do a regular print. So now we need to decide what we're going to ask them. So how about we tell them, enter a number to find out if it is a palindrome. Let's go ahead and put space there, close that off. There we go. Now we need to go ahead and read that number in. So let's do number equals input dot next int. Okay, whoops. There we go, now we're good. Now that we know the number, the first thing we need to do is find what the reverse is. So we're going to go ahead and call our next method. And we're also going to store it in reverse in. So here's how we're going to do that. We're going to do reverse in equals, and to simply invoke another method, all you got to do is reverse is use its name. So in this case it's reverse, and then we need to tell what we're passing it. So we're going to be passing this method number. Alright, now before we move on in the main, we're going to go ahead and jump down to this reverse method before we do anything else. Go ahead and get the code written for this. So first thing is, we need to tell it what to be expecting. So it needs to be expecting an int variable, and you can actually use whatever you want to for name. I'm going to use fun num. The fun technically is standing for function, which comes from C programming, which I did a lot of now. Now I'm doing Java, so that's where that comes from. But anyhow, you can put what you want to there. And it's pretty much just a placeholder. So, first thing we got to think of is how exactly are we going to find out what the reverse of this number is? And I can tell you right now, 10 is going to be your best friend, using 10. So I have a test program right here. And the only thing I have here is a simple print statement, and I'm showing you something. As you can see, I've typed in this number, 54,879, and I'm using the remainder operator of 10. And what this is going to do is, as you can see right here, it's going to tell me what that last digit is, and it's 9. So now that I know what the last digit is, I know what to put at the very start for the number. And to shorten the number, we're going to be dividing by 10 a lot. So here, let's go ahead and dive in and see what variables we're going to need. We're going to need several looping structures in here to do this, and we're going to need a count and a couple other temporary numbers to be able to put temporary numbers into. So first we're going to do int count, and we're going to go ahead and set our count to 0. Another thing we're going to use is int temp. And we're going to set int temp equal to funnum because we don't want to be changing the number we're receiving right now. That'll be for a little bit later in this method anyways. So there we go. And then we're going to do one more temp. I need one more temp number. So we'll do int temp 2. I don't need to set that one or initialize that one yet. And then the other thing is we're going to need what we're passing back. So I'm going to go ahead and set one more variable, and it's going to be int reverse n again. And I'm going to go ahead and equal this one to 0. And the reason reverse n can be used here, even though we have to define it again, even though it's defined up here, is because the scope of this reverse n is only in the main function. It's good from this bracket to this bracket. If we had placed it outside of main, say in the class, it would have been good for all of these. But you got to be careful when doing that because it's real easy to accidentally change it. So we're going to just define it in itself, or in each method anyways. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and get into our loop. The first loop we're going to do is a while loop. And this one is I simply want to know how long that number is. That's the only thing I want this for. So we're going to do temp right here, which is the number. And when this equals 0, because we're going to keep on dividing 10 or dividing it by 10, which is going to keep making it shorter and shorter and shorter. It's going to keep cutting one digit at a time off. And once it equals 0, we want to kick out of this loop. We just want to know simply how long is this function, or is this number. Which you'll see in just a sec why we need that. So we're going to do temp divided equals 10. So we're going to keep dividing it by 10. And every time, whoops, hold on, I need my semicolons semicolons first. And every time we divide it by 10, we're going to go ahead and increment our counter up by 1. And that's all this while loop's going to be good for. It's just to tell us how long that number is. Alright, next while loop is we're going to actually start writing this number in reverse. And the thing is, the reason we need to know how long it is because I need to know what power of, we're going to be timesing it by 10 to the power of whatever it may be. 10 to the power of 0 is 1. 10 to the power of 2 is obviously 100. Or, yeah, 100, sorry. And so on and so on. So let's go ahead and dive into this while loop. Okay. And for this one, now that we know how long it is, we only need to loop as many times as it is long. So we're going to do count is greater than 0. There we go. So in this, Now we need to start thinking about this. This is where temp2 comes in handy, because we're going to use temp2, and now we need to start using what we had in our test program, the remainder, to find out what that digit. So first we're going to do funnum remainder of 10. So tell us our digit, and we're going to store that in 2. Now that we know that digit, now we need to times it by 10 to the power to get it in the right position. So we're going to take reverse n, and we're going to store everything there now. Then we're going to do plus equals, because plus equals rtemp, or sorry, not rtemp. Wow. We do plus equals temp2 times math.pow, and actually math.pow I need to change or typecast it into int because it is technically a double function. And then I need to put my arguments in there. So first argument is going to be 10, and then for this argument we're going to do count minus 1. The reason it's minus 1 is because if we had something that was where our counter got up to 4, meaning it's 4 digits long, well, we don't want 10 to the 4th. We actually want 10 to the 3rd to put our first digit in that final or that first spot. Okay, so we got that. And the reason we're using plus minus here is because the first time we come through here, we don't have anything in here. That's why we initialized it to 0. It's because we don't have anything in there. So it's just going to be the first digit times 10 to the power of whatever it is. And it's going to put that there. And then we're going to keep adding on to that, so we keep getting keep adding each digit into the number for the reverse. Now that we have that, we need to decrement our counter so that our loop will slowly end. Now that all that's there, we only have one thing to do, is return the reverse number for this method, and this method will be done. So let's go ahead and go outside of here. We need to return, and we're going to return reverse n. And there we go. That's all for that method. Hold on one sec. Oh, I used a capital I there. Should have been lowercase I. There we go. Now we're good. Okay, now that we got that, that'll tell us what our reverse number is. Now we're going to go jump down to our final one. And now that we know the reverse number, what are we going to do with that? Well, we need to compare it to the original number to see whether or not it's a palindrome. So in this, we're going to pass it two things. We're going to pass it number, and as you can see, we're storing this reverse in the reverse number. Actually, sorry, these are just placeholders, so I just need int. You got to remember both of them are int. So we're going to do funnum. Then we're going to do funnum2. I was starting to get ahead of myself there. So anyhow, the only thing in this we need to do is how do you compare two numbers? Simple if statement would work perfect. So let's do if funnum1 is funnum2. And we're not going to use brackets because I'm only going to have one thing here. And that is simply return true. Else, return false. And that's that for that method. It's a real simple one there. Oh, let's take a look real quick. Oh, I forgot. Since we have a second argument, and I also have to tell what that is as well. So it's int as well. There we go. Now it likes it. That would be why I have this as funnum and not funnum1. Alright, now we're good. Yep. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump back up to our main. And now that we have this, now we need to invoke that method. So for this one, we need once we're passing it, we got to figure out what we're going to do with the true false. So once again, let's go ahead and do another if. Let's go ahead and do if is palindrome, which is the name of that one. I also need to tell it what we're passing, so we're going to be passing number and number and reverse number. And all we're going to do is if that returns true. So if it's true, we're going to print this statement. So actually go ahead and copy this so I don't have to type everything out. I'm going to actually use a printf in this one, but for now, let's change it to printf, and we're going to change this sentence up. So let's say the reverse of your number %d is %d, and it is %s. Because now we're going to complete this sentence. It is a palindrome, or it is not a palindrome. So let's go ahead and use tell it what variables we're using. So we're going to be using number. And then we're going to be using reverse n. And then the last thing is we're going to be using, for this one, this is if it's true, so we're going to be using string A. Go ahead and copy this. Enter. Now we're going to do our else. Let's paste that, and this time the only thing we're going to have change is change that to B. So now let's go ahead and take a look at this program. Make sure I don't have any errors before I run it, and it looks good. Alright, so let's go ahead and run it. Let's use a test number. Let's do 436. It's not a palindrome, but it should give us the reverse and tell us it's not a palindrome. So there we go. The reverse of your number 436 is, obviously that's wrong, so I obviously did something wrong in here, which I must have. Reverse n plus minus int pal count 1 minus 1. Check. Let's see. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? Is yes, I may have done the digit right here and told it what the digit was, but I never did shrink the number down. Start cutting digits off. So what we have to do to cut digits off is all you have to do is divide by 10. So we're going to do a simple fun num was what we were using, correct? Yeah, fun num divide equals 10. And that's just simply going to keep cutting it down. Whoops. Fat fingering stuff here. So there we go. Fun num 10. So let's try that again. Now we should have it. Sorry about that. So let's try 436 again. So there we go. The reverse of your number 436 is 634. And it is not a palindrome. That is correct. So now let's go ahead and actually do a palindrome number and see what it gives us. So let's do like 5005. So there we go. The reverse of 5005 is 5005, and it is a palindrome. So there we go. This program works. It's a slightly more complicated program than what I've shown before. But anyways, I hope that helped you, and enjoy.